Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing Content Extravaganza. And if you're new here, you couldn't possibly know that I am on a mission to give you everything you need to be more successful in your business, providing, of course, what you need to be more successful in your business is to know more about and be implementing more enthusiastically, more effectively, and more efficiently sales and marketing in your business, which is, of course, what you need if you're going to be more successful. You need more customers more profitably, and eventually everything you need to do that will be right here on this channel. So what goes on here is I am here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing as part of the What the Series on a Monday. On a Tuesday, I bring in anyone I can find with experience to share with you that's going to be useful to you if you are looking to grow your business. On a Wednesday, every other Wednesday, Melanie Farmer comes through. We look at the marketing news and we speculate wildly about what it might mean for you in your business. And on the other Wednesday, I review so you don't have to. Very soon on a Thursday, I'll be here thinking out loud. And on a Friday, we review the very best and the very worst of marketing content on the internet. So if you are catching this as it goes live, it is a Tuesday, which means I have a guest for you. And today's guest is a complete mystery up until he founded his business, Prominence Global, where he has been a LinkedIn expert since 2014. He is also LinkedIn strategy advisor at the Devereaux Collective and runs the LinkedIn Update web event, LinkedIn to Success. He is the Amazon best-selling author of 3 books, Influencer, The LinkedIn Playbook, and Secret Sauce. He was introduced to us by the Sage Simon Bowen, who tells us that today's guest is the person he leans on the most when it comes to LinkedIn. He is a different thinker who picks apart the algorithm and serves LinkedIn's business model in order to win at LinkedIn. What you may not know about him is that he worked as a body double for Gary Sweet on the $100 million blockbuster movie, Narnia Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Today's guest is Adam Houlihan. Good morning, Adam.
Hi, Martin. Great to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to have you here. We might as well let the world know this is the second time we've tried this, and the first time was an absolute disaster because the gremlins had hold of me. But we are here now, which is good. Simon, who I'm a little bit in love with, spoke about you in glowing terms. So I'm expecting to have a kind of a different conversation today. But one thing I will tell you is that we are kind of oversubscribed with LinkedIn marketing strategy kind of people. I think you might be the 7th or 8th out of the 100 people almost that I've spoken to. Why is that? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? There's and probably the number one reason for that, Martin, is just how dynamic the platform is. And if used really well, it is one of the most powerful lead generation tools for business, which of course is what your audience is interested in. What I will say is what you'll find is there's a lot of coaches around and reasonably small operations. There aren't too many really high level agencies that exist to specifically service the LinkedIn market. We're one of only a very small number of those. We have a team of over 20 people across 4 different countries and a global client base, which is, and as you alluded to in your introduction, probably the thing that's different about us is that we actually come about how we do what we do from understanding LinkedIn's algorithms. And I want to be very, very fair when I say that and saying that nobody fully understands all of LinkedIn algorithms, including LinkedIn half the time. But we have a very good understanding of how their content algorithms and their connection algorithms work. And we design strategies that actually work with LinkedIn, as opposed to many of the strategies that get created are marketing strategies that actually go against what LinkedIn actually wants. So by working with them, then they get what they need out of the process, and of course our clients are rewarded with much higher levels of visibility than the general population, so to speak. And if I just give you a quick,
Yep.
was going to say, just give you a quick statistic on that, and I'm sure it'll open up some questions for you. But to give you an idea, there's like 850 odd million people on LinkedIn right now. There's only 1% of that 850 million that share content regularly. And by regularly, I mean at least once a week. And only 1% of that 1% that actually create content that LinkedIn sees any value in. And so that's the space that we kind of play in, is that 1% of the 1%. Which makes the numbers get very, very small very, very quickly.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Because I think you're right. There's a lot of one-man band. There's a lot of coaches. This was my frustration. I ran my business as a marketing agency from 2005 to 2014. And I came from sales into marketing. I was one of those hunter-gatherer type salespeople. So I'd always done my own marketing, so that's what qualified me. My frustration was then, as we got into 2006, 2007, 2008, all of a sudden everyone became a social media marketer. Because they'd been a coach, maybe, or because they've been, or whatever they've been, or because they've been in a marketing department, I don't know. But it seems that everyone knew where the buttons were, but nobody really understood maybe the principles of marketing. Do you know what I mean? So they understood social media, but they weren't really applying. What am I trying to say? So it was frustrating, is what I'm trying to say. But also, there's a very low barrier to entry, maybe, is what I'm saying. If you want to be talking to people about how to do social media, about how to do LinkedIn, but then there's a ceiling that nobody sees, which is where you're actually qualified to do it. I don't know. What am I saying, Adam? What am I saying?
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say, Martin, is that, as you said, there's two things that happened. That there was this grid, especially if we go a bit later than that, coming up to the pandemic years and whatever. And as much as I hate the word, I'm going to use it. There's a lot of people that pivoted out of whatever they were doing because either their business got decimated, their job got decimated, they had to become something. And so a lot of them became social media coaches with no real, prior experience, other than they probably, as you said, did it themselves in their own business. So they didn't really have a deep centered approach to how they were doing what they were doing, other than to say, hey, this is what I did, and it kind of worked okay. And I think the other thing, of course, is that the market, generally speaking, these days wants a done-for-you version more so than a here's how you do it. Now, of course, there's two parts. There is a market that wants coaching, and there is a market that wants the done-for-you. We're very much in the done-for-you. It's the biggest challenge that these small one-man band coaches have on LinkedIn is the rate of change. It changes so rapidly that it's almost impossible to stay cutting edge of what's going on, unless you've got a big team like we have, where a couple of those people, they have no client-facing roles. They're just simply there to monitor the algorithms, monitor what's happening. I'm sure you've seen it. LinkedIn keep bringing out these new features, but they never tell anyone. They never show you how to use them or where they are. So our team's constantly doing that. We have every month we have an update with all of our clients where we're showing them all these new things. You alluded to it in your introduction. We have this web event that we host every 10 weeks. And we get, on average, about 2,000 people registering around the world for that event, because it's known as the LinkedIn event to get all the latest and greatest information about LinkedIn. So I think what you're trying to say is there's a lot of this pivot stuff that happened at some point where people just became coaches. There's no real barrier to entry. As you can set up your LinkedIn profile and say you're a LinkedIn coach, and overnight you are. But whether or not you have any sort of credibility in that, I have a very simple test. People often say to me, "How do I tell the difference?" I say it's quite easy, actually. Go and have a look at how many recommendations they have on LinkedIn or Google reviews that they have, and that will very, very quickly show you the imposters from the people who kind of know what they're doing.
Yes. Okay. Cool. So we're getting into it. I tell you, there's something that I, I used to run a LinkedIn course. So I'm not going to claim. I mean, this was between 2008. So what happened is the whole world pivoted to becoming marketing consultants in 2008 when the crash happened. We were already a marketing company. We were kind of 3 years in. So we had to pivot away from, we couldn't turn up and tell people to spend thousands of pounds a month now on marketing campaigns because they simply didn't have it anymore. So we pivoted to become a training company. So at that point, I put together telemarketing, paid ads, SEO, like all of these 5-6 courses, which is what I do now. What's the point about that? The point about, so we pivoted to training. So I put together a LinkedIn marketing course, which ran then for kind of 5-6 years until I stopped running the agency. I'm not going quickly to anything today. You're just going to have to bear with me a little bit until I get into my stride. The point of that is that what I tell people about LinkedIn is that it is the largest, the most dynamic, the most up-to-date, the most accessible database of business-to-business decision makers that has ever and will ever exist. So it 100% makes sense maybe that there are, although it seems that I've come to the biggest and the best, maybe the latest, that there are 8 or 9 LinkedIn service providers that I've spoken to so far. The point of that is something occurred to me, which was about B2B and B2C. And what occurred to me is that like B2B businesses need help with their marketing. And it seems to me like B2C businesses don't necessarily. It's almost like if you go into B2C, then it's a given that you know about marketing, or else you wouldn't dare to do so. Do you know what? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and it's interesting. I'm sure there's a lot of thinking out there that LinkedIn is very much a B2B centric platform. And whilst I'd say that putting together a highly engaging LinkedIn strategy is often easier for a B2B market, it's certainly very relevant to the B2C market as well. It's just how you go about it has to be quite different. So, and of course, the B2C market is incredibly a noisy place. So, as a general rule, to survive in the B2C world, like you said, you probably have to be pretty good at what you're doing, or you'll become, I don't know what it's like in the UK, but Australia, I think it's something like 85% of all businesses that startups don't get past like the first 2 or maybe 4 years of existence. So there's a very, very high failure rate, and the very high majority of those are retail style businesses.
Yeah. Well, I saw a stat recently. It's 6 months for a restaurant. Like stupidly 80-90% of restaurants go out of business in the first 6 months. And then what happens, which is an aside to what we're talking about here, is the whole restaurant support industry learns that they've got 6 months to rinse these businesses for as much money as they possibly can. And then it becomes like a downward spiral. But yeah, and this is kind of why I'm here, because for me, it's very much us, the small businesses versus the corporations. That to me seems to be the battle line. And what did I want to say about that? Yeah, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking maybe this was a challenge doing this first thing on a Monday morning. I've got a million things going through my head. There's another thing that I want to ask before we get into like the structure, which is you clearly are a LinkedIn specialist, but you've decided only to have kind of your current experience on LinkedIn. So looking at you, I'm guessing that you may have done some work before you started this business in 2014. But you've decided not to share that on LinkedIn. Is there a strategic, tactical reason that you've made that decision?
Yeah, it's a great pickup, Martin, and it's definitely, you're right. This is actually about the fifth business that I've had. I started my first business when I was 24, so that's what now, nearly 35 years ago. And I've had a number of businesses prior to this one. But the reality is it depends. See, most people think that LinkedIn should be like your resume. And often, clients come to us and will that's the first thing we'll do, and is go and remove all these prior things that they've done. Often people have everything listed right back to when they were a paper boy as a child. And the first thing there's two challenges. One is that if you have a lot of prior roles, it can come across like you're not a stayer. That you're here today, gone tomorrow. So that can be one of the challenges if you're trying to position yourself as the authority in whatever it is you're doing right now. And that's really how LinkedIn works best, is to pigeonhole yourself. Again, coming from an algorithm perspective, that's what it likes, is you to be very niched into something. And so all these previous, like for me, I was, as you mentioned, at a short stint in the acting realm. Also had a retail background, manufacturing, and then managing quite a large online business in organic skincare, of all things. So very, very diverse. None of them really add any credibility or value to what I'm doing now. So yes, we keep it very, very much in the focus of what it is you're doing right now. The only caveat on that is if something that you did in the past is highly creditable to what you're doing now, and then in that case we might leave that position description on a client's account. But overall, yes, it should. Again, algorithmically, the bots and everything that LinkedIn use are looking for certain things, and it can get very confusing if it's you're talking about all these different things that you've done over the last 20 years or 10 years or whatever time frame it is.
Okay, so that's interesting. So for you, it's about really niching down. It's about being very specifically the thing that you want to do right now. Okay, makes it challenging for people like me who want to put together an introduction for you. That's all I would say.
Yeah, it does do that. But again, as I said, we come at this from a deep understanding of how algorithms work, and what they're looking for, and how easily it is to cause confusion. Remember, these are not actual people like you or me going and looking on the profile. These are bots that do a certain job, and so I can guarantee you the best use of LinkedIn is to be very, very niched into whatever it is you're doing right now. Optimize your entire profile around that. Optimize your connection strategy around that. Optimize your content strategy around that, and optimize your conversion strategy around that. It's what we call the 4 pillars of LinkedIn success.
Okay, fantastic. Excellent. Well, now I'm a little bit worried that you've just given the whole game away, because you've given them all the 4 pillars in the first 18 minutes and 2 seconds. So let's bring some structure to this, because there is some structure to this. As you know, there's 5 questions. So the first question is, how are you qualified to talk to us about your specialist subject? Now, your specialist subject is clearly LinkedIn, but is it LinkedIn marketing? Is it LinkedIn lead generation? Is it LinkedIn strategy? We'll come to that in a second. The second question is, who do you work with? How do you add value to their lives? The third question, what is your recommendation for anyone who's looking to get better at LinkedIn? The fourth question, what should people read? And the fifth question, who can you throw under the bus, like Simon threw you under the bus, who might enjoy to have a conversation like this with me? So your specialist subject is linked. How do you think of it? Do you think of it as LinkedIn marketing? Do you think of it as social selling? How do you think of it?
Yeah. So very, very specifically, we look at it as, and I kind of have to answer your second part of your question to answer the first part, is who we work with. But what it is, our niche is, just say that you're a LinkedIn expert is almost too broad these days, because as you just shared, there's so many different facets of it. What we do, what we specialize in, is we work with the founders or CEOs of organizations to develop a personal brand that they can then use for lead generation. And we just happen to use the LinkedIn platform to do that. So if you had to pigeonhole us into something, it's personal branding that is also lead generation.
Okay, good. So now we get into semantics a little bit. So I always used to talk about LinkedIn marketing. So personal brand and okay. So is there a distinction worth making there? Is it essentially, because I would say personal brand, personal positioning, marketing, lead generation, promotion, marketing. Is there a distinction to be made there, or not necessarily?
Yeah, there's a big distinction to be made, because you could say marketing encompasses, everything, like you said, from paid ads to, you might put a post up, promoting something you're doing, whatever. That is marketing. And as a general rule, there's nothing wrong with that. However, the way that we go about it is that, and maybe if I give you a quick analogy, and I'm going to use Richard Branson, whether you love him or hate him, because he does this probably better than anyone in the world. And he has what we call the three key brands. So he has the personal brand, which is Richard Branson, over the top of everything. Under that is his company brand, which is, of course, Virgin. And then under that, there's all the different things that Virgin do. So in this analogy, what we're talking about is using that overarching personal brand, which is you, meaning that positioning you as the absolute authority in something, whatever the industry is, and then using that authority to give credibility to your company brand, if that makes sense.
Okay, good. All right. So then what we're talking about is personal brand and lead generation on LinkedIn. That's essentially your specialist subjects. Good.
That's it.
So how then, Adam, are you qualified to talk to us about personal brand and lead generation on LinkedIn?
Well, I suppose, as you alluded to, a couple of best-selling books out there. Both have been rewritten 3 times now, or written twice. There's 3 editions of each. The most recent one, this one, Influencer, came out last week and is already Amazon bestseller in Australia, the US, and the UK. We run the largest LinkedIn event in the world. We run it 5 times a year. We have over 2,000 people registering every time we run that event. We have a global client base, across 4 continents of people that we work with. And if you care to go and have a look at the recommendations on my LinkedIn profile, you would see there's recommendations from over 700 people attesting to the value they got from doing something with us.
Okay, good. So it sounds like you're eminently qualified. That might be the quickest anyone has ever qualified themselves. Okay, so I'm going to say to you what my wife said to me in about 2010, 2009, because I got into the habit when I was running my business of collecting video testimonials and posting them on my website. And she said, "You've got too many testimonials now. It makes you look desperate." So that's what I'm going to say to you, Adam. You've got 700 testimonials, makes you look desperate.
I suppose, yeah, it's a fair opinion to make. I have to be honest and say that's the first time I've ever heard that. I've never heard that somebody would think having too many people singing your praises is a bad thing. So
yes,
I have to just say I don't see it that way. But I respect anyone's opinion to do as they do. But I think in this day of like you said, that there's a lot of players in markets that don't really have any backbone to what they really do. I think the world is looking for social proof on that, and there's nothing better than having those testimonials. And there's many different ways you can get them. You can get them on LinkedIn, the way you see them on my profile, Google reviews, as we all know, and video testimonials. So we don't get too bogged down in. You won't see any video testimonials on our website. As a general rule, a lot of the people that we work with prefer some degree of anonymity, as in, they are the leaders and founders of these organizations. And often they certainly want to have that personal brand and the type of thing that we help them to develop. But they often don't want their competitors to know who they're working with. And so, we have like a non-disclosure agreement in our when we're working with people, which basically says, hey, we're happy for you to talk about us anytime you like, but unless we have your express permission, we'll never talk about you. And okay. that's what we find is that that wins us more business than it loses, because the level of people and organisations we work with tend to like that.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to thank you for showing so much respect to my ex-wife's opinion about how many testimonials someone should have. I don't respect that. I think that's absolute junk. Because I think, the reason I'm here is because I want to express to small businesses how necessary marketing is. Like, you get to be successful if you do marketing. The most successful companies in the world are amazing at marketing. But also, I want to express how much fun it is to have success in your business. To invest in marketing and for it to work, and sales, of course. And then also how easy it is. So really, for me, it's no more difficult than doing a good job and then communicating that you've done a good job. So there's no better qualification. If you want to tell me you're a LinkedIn expert and the next words out of your mouth are, there are 700 recommendations on my LinkedIn profile, there's the proof in the pudding. Do you know what I mean? That's all there is. And you're right, you can't have too many people saying nice things about you if you're in business. Now, you can't, because part of the challenge, I think, for small businesses is they don't realize they need to invest in marketing very often, ever. And then when they do, they go into the market and they get ripped off, because there are a million people, consultancies, agencies out there who will happily take your money, and they don't care if you sink or swim. And maybe they prefer it if you sink, because then they just go to the next target. And actually, those businesses include, for me, the platforms like Google will completely rinse you of your money. LinkedIn will rinse you of your money. Facebook, Instagram, they will all rinse you of your money. So this is what goes on. So it's really important to me. The reason I asked that question is, how are you qualified? It's because I think most people aren't. And I've not spoken to anyone yet who isn't at all. But for me, this is a key thing that's going on in marketing, is people are out there. There's no barrier to entry. You put up a little sign that says social media marketing expert, and you could be taking money out of people's businesses, So I got on one then, I'm sorry. But that's how I feel about it. 700 recommendations on your LinkedIn profile. Sounds to me like you're eminently qualified to talk about LinkedIn. What do you think?
I think I scrape in there, as you said. Anybody can use that word, expert. I mean, there's the old one that used to be often touted. I'm sure you've heard it, where it said you can only be an expert if you've got 10,000 hours of expertise behind you. I'm pretty sure I've clocked up more than that, to be honest. But I don't really buy into that one. I think it's really about really. And I'll share with you. You might find this interesting, but I don't believe that the days of the big marketing agencies are going to exist for a great deal longer. And what I mean by that is that there's many, albeit getting fewer and fewer, agencies around there that say, hey, we can do Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok and Google AdWords and SEO. Like we're the one-stop shop for everything. And as a general rule, often it's the case now that with the rate of change of every one of those platforms, of a big agency being at the cutting edge of every single one of those specialties, is very, very difficult or very, very expensive to maintain the team that could do that. So my belief is that the future lies in, we as small to medium businesses are going to partner with agencies that specialize and really know their stuff in 2 or 3 mediums. So, it might be, for example, that you are doing SEO. And you might do LinkedIn and you might do Facebook. And so you have 3 different agencies that you would work with that specialize in those areas of expertise. And I'm just using those, there's YouTube, there's so many different ones these days, that the future of marketing, in my opinion, is with these specialized firms that really just specialize in one thing and do it incredibly well.
Okay, good. I 100% agree with you, and I can't find those agencies. I mean, we know who they are. They're the leviathans, but they're not speaking to me. Everyone I speak to is specialised these days, because this rate of change is a real issue, and it comes into, like, we're moving towards question 2, I think, it comes into this idea of agency, like, and how agency is required in marketing. So somebody put it to me brilliantly one time, like the first job or the difficulty with doing your own marketing is that you have to be able to read the label of the bottle that you're in. And people can't do that. They can't put themselves outside of themselves and see the value that they deliver in the world. So agency is required in that sense. But then also now, because of this rate of change, you can't keep up. If you're a business, if I'm me, I can't keep up with all of the platforms. Now, we were an all of marketing kind of agency, and we stopped doing that in 2014. And I kind of went on the missing list. I wasn't very interested. And now I'm coming back. I haven't got the first clue where to begin with all these things, except I'm having these brilliant conversations and people are bringing me up to speed, which is really nice. But there's a flip side to that, isn't there? Whereas, because when we started as a telemarketing company. We started as a sales consultancy, very quickly became a telemarketing consultancy. Then email came along and we put those two together. Then we needed websites to send, and then we became like a digital marketing agency. The issue with being specialist is that if you are specialist, then every problem has to be a hammer, and you're a hammer. Every problem has to be if every problem's a nail, you have to be a hammer. Does that make sense? So when we were a telemarketing agency, whoever came to us, well, the answer is telemarketing. Clearly, has to be, because that's all we do. But what's the thing about that? Yeah, so. Is every problem a nail? Is probably the question I'm asking you. Like, does everyone? Clearly, you've got your funnel. You're niching people down to what it is you do exactly.
We do, but Martin, I'll tell you, the first thing we do in that process is doing an analysis of whether LinkedIn is actually the place that person should, or that company should be playing. And there are occasions where people come to us and say, been on your events, know you guys are awesome at I want to do this, and we do an analysis on them and go, hey, Martin, LinkedIn's just not the place for you. You should be on this platform or that platform. So and we actually, to actually even have a sales conversation with our team, there's a fee. So believe it or not, we charge people to even talk to us. But that's because we don't just have and in fairness, look, we do have a quick, 20-minute catch up and just go, hey, look, this is how the process works. First step is you do this analysis. And look, it's where our team really do. They go and look at your website. They go and look at you personally. We run you through some AI tools that tell us a bit of information about you. We look at our experience in your industry in the past, how your market does or does not interact with people on LinkedIn, and we're going to come back to you and give you a very, very specific strategy that you're going to sign off on before we even get started. Part of that process may be we'll come back and say, this is just not the place for you to play. I won't say that happens a huge amount, but it does happen. And if that's the case, of course, we refund the fee and send them on their merry way. But the reality is, you've got to make sure that if you're only going to play on 2 or 3 platforms, they've got to be the right platforms. And LinkedIn, is not always the right platform for people. The same as SEO may not be, or Google AdWords, or whatever it is. You've got to align the platform with where your audience is. If they're not on LinkedIn, then LinkedIn clearly is a waste of time for you.
Okay, good. And then again, coming back to what we were saying before, you've got to be pretty disciplined, or you've got to be pretty comfortable already to be able to say to customers, no, this isn't your thing. So it ties into this idea of how people get ripped off. They get ripped off because they pay for things that don't work, or they get ripped off because they're paying for things that were never going to work for them. So, but I would say pretty much, I mean, to come back to your 1% of 1%, like you're saying 1% of the LinkedIn population posts, now there's 850 million people on LinkedIn. That's still 85 million people, That's right. And the 1% of that is still... Oh, that's 875,000 people, is it?
Look, I said a ballpark. There's about 850 million people on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And of course, 1% of that is 8.5 million.
Yeah.
And 1% of that 1% is about 85,000. So,
wow.
Now what I mean by that, Martin, is that that's just the ones who are actually doing it quite well. There's there's 8.5 million people that are having a crack, but they're just, usually through no fault of their own. It's just that they just don't understand how it works. Just not really being effective in what they're doing because they don't realize that what they're doing. And we've got to remember that LinkedIn is, whilst we can all have a free account, of course they all want us to have a free account, the same as Facebook. And the reason platforms give free accounts is because we become the cannon fodder for the laser targeting of what they're trying to do for paid ads. LinkedIn's no different. They have a paid ad platform, which is quite expensive, and it's deliberately so. So essentially, in really simple terms, how LinkedIn looks at it is, if you want to be a marketer, then use the ad platform. That's it. If you want to get free traction on our platform without paying for the ads, we're going to make sure you kind of get pretty suppressed in your visibility. However, what they also know is, unlike Facebook, if we could compare the two, is Facebook knows that we'll all come because we want to be social on the platform and interact with friends and all sorts of different things, so they can easily get lots of people on the platform. LinkedIn, they know that the real reason the majority of people will come to LinkedIn these days is about they want to become the place that we go to for really good quality content about certain topics that are of interest to us. And so they know that to keep attracting people to the platform, and it's not a platform where they want to flood it with ads. They want a certain percentage of ads there. But then, of course, they still need a large volume of people that are doing one of two things. They're either consuming this content that these content creators are creating, or they're using it through subscriptions. So over 80% of their revenue comes from subscriptions more than ads. So as opposed to Facebook, 100% of their you can't have a subscription to Facebook. You can pay for ads, or you can have a free account. On LinkedIn, over 80% of their revenue comes from people having, there's all different ones, the recruiter platform, there's Sales Navigator, the premium accounts, talent solutions, that type of thing. So that's where the majority of their revenue comes from. But they still need hundreds and hundreds of millions of people on the platform to make those subscriptions of value to people. Their goal is to have 3 billion people on the platform.
Right. Okay, good. Except, of course, that LinkedIn is different, because LinkedIn is founded in this recruitment thing. So you talk about talent solutions. I mean, I don't know if you know the number, but those kinds of subscriptions are huge in uptake and huge in cost. So yep. I would imagine those subscriptions are making up a significant percentage of that 80% that comes from subscriptions.
Yeah, I'll be very honest. I don't know the actual total breakdowns of those, because, as I said, we focus just on one area of that. And the only platform we use or have our clients use is Sales Navigator, and which is probably about, depending on where you are in the world, it's like $100 a month as a rough guide, and converting to your local currency from there. And the recruiter license, as you mentioned, is $6,000 per seat. So if you have a recruitment agency with 5 people working in there, you have to have 5 recruiter licenses at $6,000 a pop per year. So yeah, it's a significant amount of money. But I'd say there is quite a wide spread of revenue that comes across. And whilst, as you are correct, in its early days, it was very much a recruitment platform, but it has morphed way beyond just that. And the line in the sand where that kind of changed dramatically was, of course, when Microsoft purchased LinkedIn for, I think it was like $26 billion US. And the rate of change since then has been just phenomenal.
Yes. Okay, good. So that puts LinkedIn, because the challenge of LinkedIn, I've always thought, you're saying it's moved well beyond, and I think it might have actually. I mean, in these conversations, I've picked up tips, and I've managed to make LinkedIn much more useful to me. because I was crying like a girl about the state of posting on LinkedIn. Because whenever I logged into LinkedIn, I was seeing people bragging about some charity thing they'd done at the weekend, or reminiscing about their wedding day, or some water cooler type rubbish. Do you know what I mean? That had nothing to do with businesses. And I know this has become entrenched. People call these engagement posts because people engage with it. You know, they like a little bit of sentiment. For me, it's got no place in business. I'm not sentimental at all. But now I'm able to, because I'm subscribing, I'm following people, I'm getting notifications of the people I'm interested in. So it's moved away from that. LinkedIn might now be my preferred social media. It might be so I don't like any of them anymore, but it might be the social media I refer to the most often. What's the point about that? But the challenge has always been, it is founded in recruitment, and people, and I don't know if the switch flicked exactly when you say it is, but people are there, I've always thought, to fuel their recruitment needs or something. Do you know what I mean? So the challenge has always been, you've got to get them away to thinking about, I need a new job, towards thinking about, this could be a good solution for me in my current role or in my life currently. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And look, it has a place for both. So there's certainly, the HR and recruitment industries around the world. Clearly, there is not a HR firm or a recruitment firm in the world that isn't using LinkedIn. So that's part of their market. And then the other part of the market is exactly as you said, this trend towards people, they don't really want that, that clickbaity type, engagement type content. And LinkedIn is getting very adept at working out what's the type of content you want, and serving you, without getting super technical on algorithms, but they're improving all the time the way that you can train the platform to show you the type of content that you're interested in, and it's filtering away a lot of this other stuff. In simple terms, there's two ways you can do that. It's exactly as you said. You find particular content creators that you like. If you go on there, like if you went on anybody's profile, and in the top right corner you'll see this little like bell icon, and if you click that bell, what that is, you're signaling LinkedIn that, hey, I like this particular content creator, so make sure you show me anytime that person posts content. I want to see that in my feed, and I want to get a notification that they've posted something. So that's one way. The other way, of course, is if you go onto any piece of content, and in the top right corner there's like three little dots, and you can click on that and you can say, yeah, you know what, I actually don't really like this type of content. So, if you take a bit of time, again, understanding how things work, you can actually train the algorithm to make sure, as an example, I almost never see that type of content that you refer to. I know it's there, but I've just trained the algorithm to show me what the type of content that I'm interested in. And of course, the more you do that, the better that they get at showing you that type of content. So it's kind of like you can get out what you put in.
Yeah, for sure. It feels like that. And then the issue, I'm not a big fan of these platforms, I'll be honest with you. I'm really not. Like, I really do think they're doing a disservice to the industry, like Google, Facebook, all of them. I think if they are marketing platforms, they could be doing a much better job for marketeers, is what I think. But I think LinkedIn kind of gets a pass because it's not primarily a marketing platform. Like, we don't know exactly what the figures are, but we know that, like, if it's $6,000 for a seat for these recruitment tools, then 100%, a vast majority of their stuff, their income is coming from that. And I don't know if that makes it better or worse, that this is kind of incidentally a way that you could be generating this stuff. Because if its primary function were as a marketing tool, it would be flooded with marketers. It feels like it is quite flooded with marketers at the moment, or salespeople. Again, I don't know what the question is.
Yeah, I think if I could help you out a bit, maybe, is that you said like LinkedIn maybe gets a pass. As I said, first of all, it's got to be, it only makes sense to spend a lot of time on there from a marketing perspective, now at the end of the day, we're all marketers. There's no two ways about it. So even we are marketers. We're coaching and helping our clients to be marketers. We're just coaching and helping them to do that in a way that that the platform itself actually works and how it actually gives you traction on doing that, and taking away from the noise, that high 99% of content. That you're right. If you're not training the algorithm, you will see lots of content that's I wouldn't say questionable, but it's just untargeted. It's people like you said. I had this adversity in my life, and this is what I did about it, and it becomes that clickbaity stuff. Look, it is there. Of course, it's there. It's on every platform. LinkedIn can't stop people doing that stuff. But they can get very, very good at understanding whether you're like if you're paying for the Talent Solutions platform, they know you're looking for a job, so they're going to help you find the right information. If you're a recruiter using a recruiter license, they're going to help you to get the outcomes that you want. And if you want to use it for personal branding, they're fine with it. They say, yep, this is fine, but there's a way that we like it done and there's a way we don't like it done. So if you do it the way we don't like it, we're not going to stop you posting, not going to stop you doing it. We're just going to make sure not very many people see your stuff, as opposed to the people who are doing it in the way they do like, and it becomes in their interest to show that content to people.
Yeah, 100%. So the question is becoming quite clear in my mind now. Finally, I think the Monday morning fog is clearing. So there's three things here. There's the personal brand. So how does LinkedIn want you to brand yourself on their platform? Then there's the probably in this order. Then there's the posting activity. So what are that 0.1% doing right that LinkedIn likes? And is that then what leads to the lead generation? Are those the kind of three phases to it? You had 4 pillars. Maybe remind us of the 4 pillars.
So the first one is profile. So you've got to have a profile that, one, looks professional, but also is algorithmically activated. So what I mean by that is that all the right information's in the right places, so that when the bots are coming and looking at that and determining, who they should be showing your profile to, that you're giving it the right information. So profile is number 1. Connection is number 2. So you've got to be connecting with the right type of people, getting the right type of people to follow your profile. Third is your content strategy. That's probably one of the biggest parts of the whole process and what really that is about is niching your content down to serving just one market. And one of the biggest or most often asked questions I get is, but I've got 3 businesses, so how do I do that on LinkedIn? I said, well, you don't. You pick one and you just focus on one. But I got 3. I said, well, I don't care. LinkedIn doesn't work like that. You have to be very focused on one thing to get any traction. So it's how you put this content strategy together. And then, of course, the fourth and the money step, as we call it, is how do you then get people wanting to come off LinkedIn to take a next step with you? And what that never is, and if you look at Simon is a great example. Simon, if you look at Simon's content, or of course, have a look at mine, you'll pretty much never see where we're marketing, a product or service. There is never anything on there saying, hey, we're the greatest LinkedIn agency in the world. Come work with us. Never. It's never there. And the same you'll see with, Simon. He might invite people to say, hey, I'm running this free workshop next week if you want to come. And because he has so much credibility on the platform, so many people see him as the sage, as you put it. They're like, yeah, I want to come to that. I know who Simon is. I see his stuff all the time. He's amazing. His events will be definitely worth coming to. And so he very, month after month after month fills those events off LinkedIn. So this where he's got people then to willingly move off the platform into a next step with him. And that's the holy grail of what you've got to do, as opposed to just marketing. Hey, I've got this solution to you. I'm the solution to your problem. Talk to me. So that rarely works because, again, algorithmically, LinkedIn will sort of suppress that stuff down and make sure not very many people see it, as opposed to if you're seen as you're constantly providing good quality information. I often don't use myself as a good example because people say, but you're talking about LinkedIn on LinkedIn. Of course, they're going to give you higher visibility than everyone else, which isn't actually the case. But people like Simon and the person that I'm going to throw under the bus, so to speak, you will see if you look at their content, you'll see this kind of concept in action.
Yes. Okay, good. All right. So I attended one of Simon's events recently. It was about his process and about basically adjusting his process in the face of this AI that's happening now. There were like 150 people there. That's good. So
Pretty
what
normal.
I'm seeing you doing and what I'm seeing Simon doing is you have these funnels where you drive people to the point where they step away. Like you say, if they step away willingly, that's first prize, 100%. Like if you have to drag them away kicking and screaming, they're never good leads. They're never good leads. Here's my issue in my life. You will come to understand that I am just a bag of issues. What I'm trying to do now is I'm not interested in having one-to-one interactions other than these interactions. I'm not interested in having customers. I want to monetize my content, but not in the. I want to become like a media producer kind of company. So maybe it's not relevant here. Let's keep it relevant to what you do. Okay, but so I am failing at LinkedIn probably. We're posting 5-6 times a day. It's links to our content. We just want to get eyeballs on it. Like the idea is really that we just get, we don't need very many views to get our videos ranking, and then they kind of have a life of their own occasionally. So I'm flailing. So maybe for my benefit and the benefit of anyone who's watching, maybe you can tell us how does LinkedIn want us to, on these 4 stages, how does LinkedIn want us to behave? What sort of behavior is LinkedIn going to reward when it comes to our profile, for example?
Yeah, so on your profile, there's certain parts of your profile where you need to have information that makes sense to them, and the first part is like the professional headline, which is that section directly underneath your name. So you've got to have, and again, if you had a look at mine, you'll see it talks about the outcomes. So if somebody was interested in doing something with us, it very clearly gives them, hey, this is the outcome that people get when they work with us. So make it very much about the overarching thing is it's got to be mostly about your ideal client. Your profile has to be all about your ideal client more so than you, if that makes sense. Obviously there's a bit of information about you, and there's your about section obviously talks somewhat about you, but again, if you look at mine, it still talks mostly about our ideal client and what's in it for them. There's a section called your featured section, which sits about in the middle of your profile. And that's one of the only few places on your profile where you can have clickable links that take people, to other places. And if you look at mine, you'll see it has an assessment tool that people can quickly get a sense of how well they're doing on LinkedIn. The one in the middle is called our 3 client outcomes. It goes to a video. It says, hey, this is the outcome you're going to get if you want to work with us. And of course, what we're doing, Martin, is we're training people. There is a certain part of the market we don't serve. So, and we one of those agencies that have that great problem of we have more inbound leads of people contacting us than what we can necessarily process. So we've got to make sure we vet them very well. So we're showing them this information. This is who we work with. This is the outcomes we get. That's the type of information we're sharing. And then down in the, what is your position description. And again, you'll see the biggest mistake you can make is if you call yourself like the CEO or the founder or the managing director or the president, vice president, whatever those terms, because you do become, if you do that, you do become the cannon fodder to the marketers. And there are plenty of marketers on LinkedIn that I'm sure you've had it plenty of times yourselves where, people are sending you messages about their products or services all the time. That's how they target you is by those terms. And if you look online, you'll see it says LinkedIn expert or something about LinkedIn. So I am the CEO and founder of our organization, but practically nowhere on my profile will you see that. The other section that's vitally important is the skills at the bottom. And then don't think of these like skills as in I've got skills in copywriting, albeit that would actually be a good example. It's more about there's 50 skills you can have, and there's 3 that are pinned to the top. Those top 3, think of them like the search terms. What are the things you want to show up for in searches? They're some of the parts of that your profile they're going to use to determine where that is. And of course, people can sort of endorse you for those skills. So the more people are actually clicking on that and saying, "Hey, Martin is good at this," or it becomes third-party proof to LinkedIn. So they go, well, it's not just Martin saying he's good at this particular skill. There's all these people coming on and saying, yes, he is good at that particular thing. And therefore that gives their algorithms more confidence to go and show you to the people they know that are looking for that skill, if that makes sense.
100%. Yeah, I'm just looking at your profile as you're talking to me, and you have done all of these things exactly like you're saying. The job title thing is interesting because, like, when I was doing this, you had to really coax people away. They really wanted to be CEO of a thing. And still, like, if I talk to people about LinkedIn, it's like, it's your professional headline. Is how do you add value to the world is what people want to know. But there's only 2 people who are really interested in your actual job title. That's your mum, maybe you, and recruiters. So you're putting yourself right in the firing line if you're not doing those things. Okay, cool. Excellent. Okay, so that's what we need to do with our profile. Connection strategy. Are you proactively seeking new connections, sending out invites, doing all those things?
Well, again, I rarely use myself as a good example because the maximum you can have on LinkedIn is 30,000 connections, and I have 30,000 connections. So I can't be any more proactively going out and connecting with people. But let's use you as an example. So should you be doing that? Yes, you 100% you should be, because it tells LinkedIn that it gives them a guide. And let me just jump back one step quickly because I want to share the number one thing you shouldn't do around connections, and that is accept inbound connection requests from anyone and everyone that sends you one. Reason being is that those people will be connecting with you for all sorts of different reasons. And it becomes very algorithmically confusing as to, Martin, one day he's connecting with this type of person, the next day it's that type of person. Whereas outbound, by all means, accept them if they are the right type of person. But then the outbound is where you're able to very laser focused target who are your tribe, so to speak. Because remember, LinkedIn knows all those people and they know all the people that look like those people, whether you've connected with them or not. So by having a consistent outbound connection strategy, it's consistently showing them, hey, these are the type of people that I want to be seeing my content and interacting with. And that's when, it doesn't matter, when we lead into the content part of it, that's these are the pillars, these are the steps that make each of the next steps work. So it's very much about being laser focused outbound and laser focused inbound by not accepting random connection requests.
I can't stop accepting random requests. I can't stop. And the thing is, I should stop because it's just painful. It's really painful. Like, it's immediately, because I'm a middle-aged man, it's immediately, I don't know, these fitness coaches, it's like, and then the message they send you next is, are you sad, lonely, fat, unhealthy? And then they go into this horrible pitch. I've spoken to some of them and they've obviously all bought this script from people. It's absolutely foul. But they won't. And I need to stop accepting connections. Okay, cool. So that takes us to content then, because what I'm interested to know is how do I get to be in the 1% of the 1%, those 85,000 people who are actually putting content. So you're saying that LinkedIn enjoys, likes, but then what I'm hearing is promotes.
Yeah. So think about it like, you know, let's just say you have 1,000 connections. Somebody has 1,000 connections. It used to be, it's not anymore. It used to be that the more connections you had, the more people would see your content. Kind of makes sense. Now, somebody with 1,000 connections can get equally as much traction on their content as what I could with 30,000 connections, because it's not only about those 1,000. If you've trained the algorithm the right way, what you're doing is saying, this is my tribe. These are the type of people that are the right type of people for me. And if you're serving LinkedIn's goals, they're going, right, okay, Martin, fair enough, like this. Now, even though you've only got 1,000 connections, we know all the people that would like your content. Therefore, regardless of whether you're connected to them or not, we're going to actually start showing it to those people. Now, you can tell that in your impressions because you might have 1,000 connections. However, a particular piece of content gets 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 impressions, and you're not even connected to that many people. So that's the holy grail, is getting LinkedIn to show that content out to those people. Now, let's start with what you don't do. And you're not going to like this, but the first thing is you never put links that take people off the platform. That's the number one thing that LinkedIn will always reduce your visibility on. So if I can click on a link in your post and it takes me off the platform, and what happens, of course, is pretty much as soon as you post your content, within minutes, the bot's coming along, not a real person, it's a bot, comes along and it's looking to see if there is a link that takes people off the platform. If there's any sort of political or hate speech involved, the bots can read. And any form of profanity. The bots know how to swear too. Find any of those things, it's going to go, okay, well, we're not going to stop Martin posting this. We're just going to make sure nobody sees it, and they just let it die out of the feeds. So number one is no links in the content. The second thing is posting too often. So if you're posting more than once a day, you're just destroying each piece of content's ability to get traction, because it just goes, wow, this is just way too much. You're a marketer, therefore going to really severely reduce your content. 5 times a week is about the maximum that you should post. We coach our clients to post 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just simply because it gives enough time for the algorithms to do their thing and get them out there to reach plenty of people. The litmus test we put on success on that is that if they're posting 3 times a week, which is essentially in a calendar month is 13 pieces of content, that they're getting somewhere in the range, regardless of how many connections they've got, that they're getting somewhere ballpark in the range of 25,000 to 50,000 impressions on that content. So if you're getting that level of traction on your content, you're doing well. If you're getting less than that, then something's not aligning the right way. So the key is less is more, but quality trumps quantity every single time.
Okay, and what does a quality post look like then? Do they want images? Do they want text? What is it that they want?
They want a mixture of things. So they don't want you to be all video based, but they do want you to share videos. They don't want you to be all image based, but they do want you to share some stuff with images. They like you using the newsletter feature, which is an internal feature. And by the way, if you're doing video, it has to be natively uploaded onto the platform, not like a link off to Vimeo or YouTube or those type of things, or a page on your website that has the video, nothing like that. It likes a small amount of use of like polls and document posts where you can actually upload a document that people can download straight off the platform. So it wants a mixture of all those content styles. But the main thing, Martin, is what it really wants is that it wants you to stay in a niche. So you just focus And again, if you look on my profile and under that professional headline, you'll see a line that says talks about, and it's got 5 hashtags. And that's called creator mode. So you actually have to, well, you should, if you're going to be doing a content strategy, you have to activate. Everybody has access to it, even on a free account. It's a switch you can turn off or on your profile called creator mode. You got to turn that on, and what it will do is ask you to put in up to 5 hashtags. And what it means by that is it wants you to say, these are the topics that I'm going to talk about. And if you have a look on mine, it's like LinkedIn, personal branding, webinars, that type of thing. And so your content has to stay in the niche of those particular hashtags that you've activated on your profile. Always stay just in that lane of what those topics are that you've put on your profile. And then if you do, then it goes, okay, we know confidently that every time Martin posts, he's not going to post too often. We know that he's not going to put links in there. We know he's always going to talk about these subjects. We know who he's connecting with, who are the right type of people. Therefore, magically, we'll go and show it to more people than what he's just connected to. And that's the holy grail of how you get traction on LinkedIn. And then, of course, as I said, that last part is about strategy, which will vary for every single person.
Excellent. So I am doing it completely wrong is the good news. There is hope for me yet. Posting 5 times a day, always with links. Yeah. So what we haven't tried yet, what we haven't tested is actually natively putting the videos on LinkedIn. Are LinkedIn enjoying videos? Are we likely to get views that way? Are we likely to get audience? The thing is, they're not going to pay me, are they? Like YouTube will pay me a minuscule amount of money, but LinkedIn won't pay me.
No, they won't. They won't pay you for that. What they'll do is give you, a higher level of free organic traction if you get all those other parts, right as well. But yes, you'll only get some traction, and you should put your videos on there. But again, that depends on the type of videos. So as a general rule, now this number keeps changing downwards. But right now, the videos that get the most traction will generally be somewhere around 1 minute long. Guideline, not a rule, but if you aim for somewhere around 1 minute, if you get to 2 minutes on your video, or heaven forbid longer than that, I guarantee you it's very rarely ever going to get traction, because people's attention spans are just so short these days. So they've got to be short, bite-sized, punchy. Talk about one thing and just cover one topic in one video. Have another video that talks about a related topic, but a secondary thing. The way we talk about it is what it should be, is what we call, the term is know-how with know-how. And what that means is you're showing that you know how, you're the subject matter expert. You know how to solve this problem, but you're not actually showing people how to solve that problem. If you solve the problem for people, then of course they don't need to take a next step with you, because you've become the portrayer of free advice. So you always, if you see mine, as I said, I really don't use me as a good example, because for a number of reasons, but we're always talking about, hey, these are the features on LinkedIn. This is what you shouldn't do. We might give some, basic tips on it. The reality is our strategy is all around positioning me as the authority in this space. I'm the author of multiple Amazon best-selling books, one of the most recommended LinkedIn experts in the world. But all we want is people to come to one of these free web events that we run. And yes, we get thousands of people doing that. It's from there, that's where now I've got their undivided attention for an hour, where I can go much deeper on stuff and provide massive value. And some of those people will then be the right type of people to talk to us about working with us. So we're never selling anything. Your content should never be selling anything. You're never going to get a few cents per view or anything like you do on YouTube. But that's not to say there's anything wrong with that. It's a YouTube strategy, not a LinkedIn strategy.
Yes. So, but what I'm hearing then is actually um, LinkedIn really isn't going to be a great platform for me. If I am looking to, like, if my goal is to get more views on YouTube, if my goal is like, so it sounds to me like it's perfect for you, it's perfect for Simon. Like, you want to bring people to you and get them increasingly excited at every step of the way so that they're really excited. If I'm not looking for, so it sounds to me like LinkedIn isn't a great platform for marketing media.
Well, and as I said earlier, Martin, that's the first analysis we always do. Is this the right platform for you to be? This should this be where you're spending all your time? And in your case, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a LinkedIn profile. You absolutely should, but it potentially, as you say, it's probably not your main focus.
No.
You're going to have to create a lot of high quality content in a certain way to get the traction, whereas you could spend that time and energy on YouTube and probably get a better outcome. Now, of course, where that tips, where you could say there's a different use case for you, is the paid ad platform. So yeah, can you do all this stuff you're talking about on LinkedIn? Sure, you can, as long as you pay for it. So you potentially, and there's sometimes where people come to us and would say, look, this personal branding and this concept, not for you, but the paid ad platform, yeah, look, this is definitely your space. And hey, go and talk to these guys, because these are the guys, we're the specialists in the personal branding space. These guys are the specialists in paid ads. We don't even specialize in paid ads. So we would refer, at that point, we'd refer them on to another agency that does do that incredibly well. And that's that super niching that we have. But yeah, so for you, I'd say quite possibly it's good to just have a presence there, or you'd look at the paid ads. They are expensive, so it depends what your outcome you're looking for. If you're just looking to divert traffic to YouTube, let's say the ROI is probably not going to work for you. As a general rule, a product or service, like a new client to you, probably has to be worth $10,000 plus to get an ROI on the LinkedIn ad platform.
I would say so. The last time I tested, I spent £17 per click. There was something like 17 clicks, supposedly. 2 of those clicks turned up on my website, and they were both gone within like a second. So that's my experience, my most recent experience. And I tested it in 2009. It was also junk. I've never been able to make LinkedIn ads work. I really don't think they do work. Okay, cool. So that's good news. So you've just told us basically everything that people need to do. And obviously the thing they need to do really is come and see you and get you to do it for them, because people don't do stuff for themselves, do they? Okay, good.
And of course, the thing is that, we're talking about this now. We talk about in 6 months' time, the rules have changed. They've yes. moved along. So, I want to preface by saying everything we're talking about right now is relevant right now. If you're watching this in 6 or 12 months' time, you probably want to come to one of our events or think of, for an update, because I guarantee you the game will have changed by then.
100%. Well, my recommendation is that people come and follow you. 100%. I love that know-how with know-how. That is beautiful. I think that's going to be the title of this video. Okay, cool. So that brings us to question number 3. Now, this might be useful content on LinkedIn because where we're putting it is on TikTok and Reels and Shorts. So in a minute, I need you just to tell me very quickly, what is it that people need to do? What is your recommendation if people are looking to get better traction from their LinkedIn investment?
Well, as I said, there's 4 pillars of what you would need to do. So you got to make sure your profile is looking fantastic. It's professionally presented, but it's also algorithmically aligned with what LinkedIn's looking for. You got to have that connection strategy. So be very, very diligent in who you do and don't connect with. You've got to, obviously, the number one thing is work out, like you've just done, whether the platform is the right place for you or not. And if it's not, just have a great looking profile there, and use other platforms for your marketing and lead generation. If it is the right platform, then you've got to do whatever it takes to be up to date on how things are working, and whether or not you can sit in this sort of personal branding lead generation process, or whether you need the paid ad platform. And it doesn't matter which one. It is what it is, and there's lots of different strategies. So you've got the key thing is, going back to like you were saying earlier, is making sure that the strategy is something that actually has a chance of success. You could be doing all the right things on LinkedIn, but using the wrong strategy that your market is not going to interact with. So you've just got to know which is the right strategy for you.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, cool. So that brings us to question number 4 then, which is what should people read? I bought your book, the LinkedIn Playbook. I think it was quite a long time ago. So I'm going to reread it and review it on the channel. That's what I will do. So you don't need to recommend your books because I will link those below, and I thoroughly recommend people read those. What other books have had a significant effect on the way that you go about doing your business or thinking about your business?
Yeah. Probably a really good one is what's it called? I think it's called Brand Story, and it's talking all about personal brands. Who is the author of that one? Miller. Just having a quick look here. I'm pretty sure it's called The Story Brand. So that was one that I read, and of course it's because it aligns very much with this concept of what we're talking about. I'll shoot it to you after this, so you can put it in the show notes and whatever.
Excellent.
But, it was definitely one of the best books that I read recently. Another one is The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. That was definitely a real eye opener. And my all-time favorite is called Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? It's actually not about marketing. It's just about business. But why I like it, why it resonated with me, because it's this concept. It's written by a fellow Brit who was in the Olympics, and how they took the Olympic rowing team to gold medal. And essentially all they did was every time they thought of something they'd do, they'd put it through this test and say, will that make the boat go faster? And if it didn't, then they didn't do it. And it's a brilliant book.
And there are only 2 forces at play in a boat. There is momentum and there is drag.
That's it.
Yeah, that's a brilliant analogy. Okay, super cool. Fantastic. Thank you for those. So what I will do then is I'll read those and I'll review those, as well as reading and reviewing yours. So you'll see reviews of all these things on the channel in the fullness of time. Okay, super cool. So now I just need to check in with you and see how you are feeling about your experience of appearing on the Talk Marketing Show.
Yeah, look, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, because it's actually fairly rare that you get to talk to somebody where probably this isn't the best use of your time. So it just shows how important it is to really make sure that you're on the right platform. I'm very much not the advocate for that you be the hammer. You've got to be the truth teller. And as I said, there's often cases where we would say to people, look, we're not the right agency for you. LinkedIn's not the right platform for you. Look, we get people come to us and they say, hey, look, I want to use LinkedIn. I've got a sales team. I just want them to connect and pitch stuff at people all the time. Can you help us? And we go, no, that's definitely not the best use of LinkedIn. Definitely not what we do. Don't advocate that anyone do that. And we're quite happy to say no. So it's been very refreshing to I think probably one of the few times where it's been easier to show that it's not always the ideal platform for someone.
100%. And I think that's really important now, because now if you're a business and you're looking for marketing support, because people are specialists, you either need to be really lucky and find people like you who are prepared to tell people this isn't the right thing for you, go do something else, or you need to be able to establish on the way in what you think is going to work. Now, I'm a rare instance, I think. I would say that anyone who is selling business to business, because this comes back to the way that numbers break down. Like the last time they put out actual industry numbers, I think agriculture was 1%, like the agriculture industry was represented 1%. It's still 8 million people. Do you know what I mean? It's still market for you, even if you are only targeting the agriculture business. Yeah. So I would say that if you're in the business to business and you are in the product or service business, then it should be viable for you. You know, you should be able to make LinkedIn work. And just because I'm not interested in having customers anymore, providing services or products, I think maybe that's the reason that it doesn't. But you know what? Maybe we will just put up 3. We're clipping these things up for Reels and TikTok and those things. So maybe we'll just put up 3 of those a week and see if we get better leverage. You've certainly given me some ideas of how I could do better. Brilliant. Of course, there is a motive to finding out how you found this experience, because now I'm going to ask you to throw a couple of people under the bus. So it should be easier for you to throw a couple of people under the bus if you've had a good experience, which is what you're telling us you've had. So have you got a couple of people in mind for us who you think might endure at least, or maybe even enjoy, to come have a chat with me on the Talk Marketing Show?
I do. I actually had one, but now that we've kind of gone through this process, I think you need to talk to 2. The first one is her name's Shondell Labazetta. It's a bit of a mouthful, and she's a sales specialist. She's a client of ours. She's a personal friend. We consult her for her services to us, but she is incredible at closing sales. I've personally seen her be on stage in a room full of people and close 80% of the people in that room. She's absolutely incredible. And how she goes about doing that is very, very different. So she's the first person that you talk to. She's also a huge fan of Simon Bowen's.
Okay.
The other one...
Aren't we all?
Sorry? Aren't we all? Yeah. Yeah. I think us males have all got man crushes on him. He's awesome. The other gentleman that I would speak to is, his name is Brody Lee. It's Lee spelled L-E-E. And Brody runs a business called $1 Million Events. And what Brody does not know about running the most successful events, whether they're online or live events. Honestly, this guy is world class. We engage Brody to help us. We run some pretty big live events. Last year, he helped us. We were getting probably... we've all heard of that Zoom fatigue, and getting someone to register for an event was one thing, getting them to show up was another. So we were averaging around a 25% show rate from registration to actually show up live. And now we're sitting at our last event, which was last week, was 44.7%. The change was what we implemented from what Brody shared with us, and it was just incredible. So more than happy to put you in contact with both of those people.
Fantastic.
And I think your audience would get a lot of value out of the insights they can share.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. If you could put together like a LinkedIn introduction kind of thing, then we will pick it up from there. I don't think Simon quite managed that for us, but in the case of Shondell Labazetta, I'm definitely going to need you to do that, because I would have no idea how to spell that. Yeah. Okay, so that's brilliant. Thank you so much, man. I think we got to the end. Is there anything that you haven't said that you think maybe you should have said?
We covered a lot. It's we were pretty comprehensive in there. I think that if there's anything else I can share, it's LinkedIn's a long game. It's not, you've got to stick at it. You've got to look at things on a medium to long term, especially when we're talking about building a personal brand. You don't build a brand overnight. So it's have a long term view to the process, and be consistent. That it's not the platform where you go and say, hey, look, I'll try this for a couple of weeks and see what happens. I guarantee in a couple of weeks, not much will happen. So it's all about consistency. and training algorithms to give you the results that you're looking for. It's not just about posting random content as it can be on many other platforms like TikTok. It takes a laser focus.
Fantastic. Excellent. Is there anything that you said that you shouldn't have said?
No, I'm very, very rarely say anything that I'd like to take back, and nothing I've shared today that I haven't shared many times before.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, this has been really interesting and useful. And I think what you've done is you've kind of shone a light on me. What I want to do is go against the grain, because I'm whatever I am. I'm irreverent and difficult and all of those things. But you're right. I think swimming with the current, understanding really as to the fullest extent that you can, or getting somebody who really does understand like you, how the algorithm wants to work and just getting picked up by the flow, that has to be the most sensible way to do this. So, so thank you for that, man.
It's an absolute pleasure, and enjoyed every minute of it.
Excellent. Okay, so we got to the very end, and all that needs to happen is we'll say goodbye now for the benefit of anyone who's still listening. And then I will stop recording and we'll say goodbye like normal human beings. Man, this has been really interesting. It's amazing how often like the conversation I have is exactly the conversation I need to have. So we have been trying to force LinkedIn. Maybe it's the best we can do. Maybe it doesn't matter. It delivers us some views every month, and maybe that's enough. But yeah, I'm pushing too hard against the tide. That's what I might be doing.
Could very well be. Could very well be.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here, man.
Pleasure.
Thank you for taking the time to check out this episode of the Talk Marketing series. If you found this interesting and useful, you can check out the Talk Marketing playlist here, and this is something that YouTube thinks you might find useful. And if you haven't yet, please take a second to like, share, subscribe, and comment, because that will give us the motivation to continue on this epic journey.